There is a strange moment that comes in many people's lives. You wake up one morning and realize that the thing you kept postponing has quietly become a problem. Maybe you told yourself you would take care of your health after work became less stressful. Maybe you said you would spend more time with your spouse when the financial pressure became easier. Maybe you had a dream you kept pushing into the future because there were bills to pay, responsibilities to handle, and people who needed you. You kept saying, "I'll start later," and later became next month became next year, and suddenly, you are looking at the calendar and wondering where the last 5 or 10 years went. This is one of the hardest truths of adult life. Nothing feels urgent when you are postponing it. Your health does not collapse in one afternoon. A marriage does not become distant after one forgotten conversation. A financial problem does not become serious because of one small mistake. A dream does not disappear because you delayed it once. It happens slowly, quietly, one decision at a time, and that is why patience matters. But patience does not mean sitting still. Patience means understanding that meaningful things take time while still doing your part every day. A tree does not become strong because you shouted at it to grow faster. It grows because its roots go deeper. And sometimes, your life is doing the same thing. You simply cannot see the progress yet. So today, I want to talk about 6 truths we often forget when life feels slow. Because sometimes the problem is not that your life is going nowhere. The problem is that you are measuring growth too soon. The first key point is this: you cannot rush what takes time to build, because the strongest things in life are usually growing long before you can see the results. Think about what happens when you decide, after years of ignoring your health, that today is the day everything changes. Maybe you have been eating whatever was convenient, sleeping at odd hours, sitting too much, and telling yourself, "I'll take care of myself when life settles down." But life did not settle down. There was always another deadline, another bill, another family responsibility, another reason to stay busy. Then one morning, you stand in front of the mirror and notice that you do not feel as energetic as you once did. Your knees complain when you climb the stairs. Your back reminds you that it exists every time you bend down. You make a decision, enough is enough. You start walking, you drink more water, you eat a little better, you go to bed earlier, and then comes the difficult part. After 10 days, you look for a dramatic transformation. After 3 weeks, you wonder why your body does not look completely different. After a month, you may even say, "This is not working." But what did you expect? You spent years writing one story into your body, and now you want to erase it in a few weekends. That is not how life works. Your body needs time to trust your new habits. Your mind needs time to stop expecting the old routine. Your energy needs time to return. The first few steps may feel almost invisible, but invisible does not mean useless. A house does not become a home when the first brick is placed. A garden does not become beautiful because you watered it once, and your life does not become different because you made one good decision on a Monday morning. This is where many adults quietly lose their hope. They do not actually fail, they simply expect the reward to arrive too early. A man in his late 40s might decide that he wants to get his finances under control. He sits at the kitchen table one Sunday evening, looks at the bills and finally admits, "I cannot keep living like this." He makes a budget, he cancels a few unnecessary expenses, he starts putting a little money aside every month. The first month, nothing feels different. The second month, there is still no great sense of freedom. The third month, an unexpected car repair arrives and eats into what he saved, and suddenly that old voice comes back. "See, what is the point?" But there is a point. He is no longer moving backward at the same speed. He has changed the direction of the car, even if the car has not reached the destination. That matters. We often look at our lives like impatient customers waiting for a food delivery. We place the order, so where is it? We check the phone, we refresh the screen, we check again. Maybe the driver is lost. And sometimes we treat our dreams exactly the same way. We make one good choice and expect life to knock on the door the next morning carrying a large package labeled success. But meaningful change does not usually arrive with a doorbell. It accumulates quietly. One payment, one healthy meal, one honest conversation, 1 hour spent learning, one morning when you get up even though you did not feel like it, one evening when you choose not to spend money just because you are stressed. These things look small when you are living them. Years later, they can become the reason your life feels completely different. And perhaps this is why patience becomes especially difficult after 35, 40, 50, or 60. You become more aware of time. When you are young, 5 years can feel like an endless ocean. As you grow older, 5 years can feel like a short hallway. You remember a family dinner from 10 years ago, and it feels like it happened last week. You remember your children being small. You remember your parents calling you. You remember a job you once had. You remember the person you used to be. And suddenly you become aware that time is not waiting for anybody. So when you decide to change something now, you want results quickly. You think, I have already wasted enough time. I cannot afford another slow process. But my dear friend, rushing because you are afraid of time can actually make you waste more of it. You start something, become impatient, quit. Start something else, become impatient again, and quit again. Years pass, but you keep restarting at the beginning. Imagine digging 10 different wells, but stopping every time you reach a few feet because you have not found water. You keep moving from one place to another, saying maybe there is nothing here, but perhaps there was water just a little deeper. Your problem was not that you were incapable of finding it. Your problem was that you never stayed long enough. How many times have you said, I tried it, but it did not work? And if you are honest with yourself, how many of those times did you really try long enough to know whether it could work? There is a painful difference between something failing and you leaving before the process had a chance to mature. Think about relationships. This becomes even more important as we get older. A marriage does not become strong because two people say, I love you, once in a while. It becomes strong through thousands of small moments that nobody photographs. The cup of tea made without being asked. The phone call after a difficult day. The decision to listen instead of interrupting. The ability to say, I was wrong. The willingness to sit quietly beside someone when there is nothing clever to say. Imagine a husband who suddenly realizes that his wife has become emotionally distant. He becomes worried. He says, what happened to us? But the truth is, something may not have happened on one particular day. Perhaps it happened slowly. Years of distracted conversations. Years of phones on the dinner table. Years of saying, not tonight, I'm tired. Years of postponing that holiday, that conversation, that simple evening together. Then one day, he wants everything repaired immediately. He wants the warmth back. He wants the laughter back. He wants the closeness back. But trust and closeness are not light switches. You cannot turn them on just because you finally noticed the room had become dark. You have to stay. You have to listen. You have to rebuild. And rebuilding takes time. The same is true when you are rebuilding yourself. If you have spent years speaking harshly to yourself, it may take time before your inner voice becomes kinder. If you have spent years avoiding risk, it may take time before courage feels natural. If you have spent years living in survival mode, it may take time before peace stops feeling strange. Do not become angry with yourself because healing and growth are slower than your impatience. There is another truth we rarely discuss. Sometimes slow progress is actually protecting you. Imagine if every dream you ever wanted appeared the moment you asked for it. Would you know what to do with it? Would you have the wisdom to keep it? Would you have the patience to manage it? A person may dream of becoming financially comfortable, but the years of financial struggle may teach them discipline. Someone may dream of leading a team, but the years of being overlooked may teach them how people feel when they are not heard. Someone may dream of having a peaceful family, but the difficult years may teach them the value of patience, forgiveness, and honest communication. We often look at delay and say, Why is this taking so long? But maybe the deeper question is, what am I becoming while this takes so long? That question changes everything. Because if you only measure life by visible results, you will miss the invisible transformation happening inside you. The person who starts walking every morning may not see a dramatic change in the mirror, but perhaps they are becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves. The person who saves a small amount each month may not feel rich, but they are becoming someone who can control their impulses. The person who reads a few pages each night may not suddenly become wise, but they are teaching their mind to stay curious. These changes are quiet. They do not announce themselves. Nobody sends you a certificate saying, "Congratulations, you are becoming more disciplined." Haha. But one day, you notice that you respond differently, you think differently, you choose differently, and you realize the slow season was doing more work than you understood. So when you are tempted to look at your life and say, "Nothing is happening," pause for a moment, look again. Maybe you are simply looking in the wrong place. The seed does not show you the roots. The sunrise does not show you the light forming before dawn. A person rebuilding their life does not always look successful while they are doing it. There may be months when your bank account still looks ordinary, even though your habits are improving. There may be weeks when your body still feels tired, even though you are finally caring for it. There may be days when your relationship still feels fragile, even though you are learning to communicate better. There may be seasons when your dream seems ridiculously far away, even though you are closer than you were a year ago. Do not demand that every day prove your progress to you. Some days are for visible results, other days are for roots. And roots are important because when the storm eventually comes, the tree does not survive because it looked impressive. It survives because, long before anyone noticed, it learned how to hold on. Maybe that is what you are learning now. How to hold on, how to continue, how to become steady when there is no applause, how to keep doing the right thing when the reward is still somewhere in the distance. And if today you are taking one small step toward better health, better finances, a stronger relationship, a long-delayed dream, or simply a calmer mind, do not dismiss that step because it looks small. Small is not the same as meaningless. Slow is not the same as stuck. Quiet is not the same as empty. Sometimes the most important chapter of your life begins in a season when absolutely nothing seems to be happening. The second key point is this: your biggest mistake may be giving up before the results arrive, because many things look like failure right before they begin to work. Think about how often you have started something with genuine hope, only to stop because the evidence was not appearing fast enough. Maybe you decided to walk every morning because you were tired of feeling sluggish. The first week felt good. The second week, you were busy. By the third week, the weather was inconvenient, your knees were complaining, and suddenly the walking shoes were sitting quietly in the corner like two disappointed relatives. Haha, you told yourself, "I'll start again Monday." Monday came, then another Monday. Months passed. A problem was not that walking had failed. The problem was that you expected a few weeks of effort to erase years of neglect. The same thing happens with money. You begin saving, but the amount looks embarrassingly small. You think, "What difference will this make?" So you stop. You forget that a small amount repeated for years is not the same thing as a small amount sitting alone. It is like filling a large jar with one spoonful of water every day. On day 1, the jar looks empty. On day 30, it still looks mostly empty. But keep going, and one day you realize the jar is no longer empty at all. This is where impatience quietly steals good futures. We want proof before we continue. We want the tree before we water the seed. We want the answer before we have finished asking the question. But life often asks you to continue, while the evidence is still invisible. There is also something beautiful about beginning again when you are older, because you bring something with you that you did not have when you were younger. Experience. You have made mistakes. You have trusted the wrong people. You have made decisions that turned out badly. You have learned that not every opportunity is worth chasing. You have learned that some people clap for you when you succeed and disappear when you struggle. You have learned that money matters, but it cannot solve every problem. You have learned that being busy is not the same as being fulfilled. You have learned that time with people matters more than you understood. These lessons are not wasted. They become part of your equipment. A 50-year-old who begins again is not the same person they were at 25. They may move more slowly, but they may also move with better judgment. They may have fewer illusions. They may understand consequences. They may know what they do not want. That knowledge is powerful. So if you are looking at your life and thinking, I should have started earlier, perhaps you can honor that feeling without allowing it to control you. Yes, maybe you should have started earlier. Maybe you made mistakes. Maybe you delayed things. But yesterday cannot be used as a building material. Today can. You can spend the next 5 years regretting the previous 5, or you can use the next 5 years to create something your future self will thank you for. The past can be a teacher, but it is a terrible landlord. Do not keep paying rent there. And perhaps the deepest comparison is not with another person at all. It is with your younger self. You remember how energetic you were, how quickly you could recover, how many possibilities seemed open. You look at your life now and think, I am not that person anymore. Of course you are not. You were never supposed to remain exactly that person. Your body changed. Your responsibilities changed. Your priorities changed. Your understanding changed. Maybe you no longer want the same things. Maybe the dream that mattered at 30 does not matter at 50. That is not necessarily failure. Sometimes maturity means realizing that some goals were borrowed from other people. You wanted them because society told you they were important. You wanted the title, the house, the applause, the approval. But after enough years, you begin asking a quieter question. What actually matters to me now? That question can open a completely different door. Maybe you want more time with your family. Maybe you want better health. Maybe you want meaningful work instead of impressive work. Maybe you want fewer possessions and more peace. Maybe you want to learn something simply because it brings you joy. And when you stop comparing your life with the lives around you, you begin hearing your own thoughts again. You begin noticing your own pace, your own needs, your own possibilities. You stop asking, am I ahead of them? And begin asking something much more useful. Am I moving in the direction that feels honest for me? The fifth key point is this. Some of the best things in life require you to become strong enough to hold them. Because receiving something is one thing, but being ready for it is something completely different. We often ask life for bigger things without asking whether we have developed the habits, patience, judgment, and character needed to carry them. We say, give me more money, but can you manage what you already have? We say, give me a better relationship, but have you learned how to communicate when you are angry? We say, give me success, but can you remain disciplined when nobody is watching? We say, give me peace, but are you willing to stop feeding every argument, every worry, every small insult that enters your mind? Imagine giving someone a powerful car when they have never learned how to drive. The car is not the problem. The driver is simply not ready. Haha. And sometimes we look at our own lives and wonder why the door has not opened yet, without considering that we are still learning how to walk through it. A person may desperately want financial freedom, but if every extra dollar immediately becomes another purchase, more money may simply create bigger spending. Someone may want a position of leadership, but if they cannot listen to criticism without becoming defensive, the title may expose a weakness rather than solve it. Someone may want a large audience, but if their self-worth depends on applause, attention can become a trap. This is why some delays feel frustrating. You are looking at the empty space where the result should be, while life may be working on the person who will eventually receive it. Think about a woman who spends years wishing she could have a peaceful home. She imagines sitting at the dinner table with everyone talking kindly, laughing, and enjoying one another. But she also has a habit of keeping score. If her husband forgets one thing, she remembers the last 10 things. If her daughter speaks sharply, she responds even more sharply. If someone disagrees with her, she feels personally attacked. She wants peace, but she is still carrying a mind trained for battle. Now imagine that she begins to notice this. Not all at once. She simply catches herself one evening before responding. She takes a breath. She says, "Let me think about that." That tiny moment may look insignificant, but it is huge. She has created space between emotion and action. The next week, she does it again. Then she fails. She loses her temper. She feels disappointed, but she tries again. Over time, she becomes less reactive. The home begins to feel different, not because everyone else suddenly changed, but because one person changed the way she entered the room. This is what preparation often looks like. It is not glamorous. Nobody gives you a trophy for not sending the angry message you wanted to send. Haha. Nobody announces, "Tonight, she showed remarkable emotional maturity." But these small private victories build capacity. You become stronger inside. You become less dependent on other people's behavior for your own peace. And then, when life gives you a healthier relationship, you are more capable of protecting it because you have become healthier yourself. The same principle applies to success. We often imagine that success will remove our problems. Sometimes it simply changes their size. A person with no money may think, "If I had more, I would never worry again." But someone with much more money may worry about investments, taxes, businesses, employees, family expectations, and protecting what they have built. A person who wants a leadership role may think, "Once I become the boss, everything will be easier." Then they discover that being responsible for other people's work can make sleep very interesting. A person who wants a public career may dream of being admired, only to discover that attention also brings criticism. This does not mean you should stop wanting better things. It means you should become ready for the full package. Every blessing has a responsibility attached to it. A larger home requires more care. A growing business requires more decisions. A leadership position requires more patience. A strong relationship requires more honesty. Financial freedom requires discipline. Freedom itself requires responsibility. If you only want the reward and not the responsibility, you may not be ready for the reward. So when life feels slow, perhaps instead of asking, "Why am I not getting more?" ask, "What would I need to become if more arrived tomorrow?" That question can turn frustration into preparation. Sometimes the preparation happens through difficulty, and this is the part we resist most. Nobody enjoys being taught through disappointment. We would much rather receive wisdom through a nice book, a peaceful morning, and a cup of tea. Haha, but life has a way of teaching through experience. You lose money, and you learn caution. You trust the wrong person, and you learn to pay attention to character. You make a poor decision, and you learn that excitement is not the same as wisdom. You go through a difficult season in your family, and you learn what really deserves your energy. You face a career setback, and you discover that your identity cannot depend entirely on a job title. These lessons can hurt, but they can also strengthen you. Think of a piece of wood being shaped by a craftsman. The wood does not enjoy every cut. If the wood could speak, it might say, "Could you please stop?" Haha. But each careful cut is creating a form that did not exist before. In the same way, some seasons remove things from us: arrogance, impatience, false pride, unrealistic expectations. We may not understand the purpose while it is happening. Years later, we may look back and realize that difficult period changed the way I see everything. The season did not simply take something from you. It also left something inside you, a little more wisdom, a little more patience, a little less need to prove yourself, a stronger understanding of what matters. There is another side to this that is deeply personal. Sometimes we are not waiting for an external blessing at all. We are waiting to become comfortable with ourselves. You may have spent years believing that you need everyone's approval. You say yes when you mean no. You stay quiet when something hurts. You agree with people because disagreement feels uncomfortable. Then you wonder why you feel exhausted. But imagine what happens when you slowly learn to respect your own boundaries. At first, it may feel selfish. Someone may not like your decision. You may feel guilty. You may lie awake wondering, did I do the wrong thing? But over time, you begin to understand that kindness does not require self-abandonment. You can care about people without carrying every problem they place in your hands. You can love your family without solving every difficulty for them. You can be generous without destroying your own stability. You can say no without becoming cruel. That strength takes time. It is built through repeated choices. And perhaps that is why some things take longer than we want, because the real work is not always getting the thing. Sometimes it is becoming the kind of person who can enjoy the thing without being controlled by it. What good is having money if money controls every thought? What good is having influence if you cannot handle criticism? What good is having a relationship if fear makes you constantly suspicious? What good is having free time if you feel guilty every time you use it for yourself? So perhaps this slow season deserves a different kind of attention. Instead of seeing every delay as rejection, look at what is being built inside you. Are you becoming more patient? Are you learning to think before reacting? Are you becoming more careful with money? Are you learning to keep promises to yourself? Are you becoming less desperate for approval? Are you developing the strength to walk away from what once controlled you? These changes may not look impressive from the outside, but they can completely change the quality of your future. A person can spend years asking for a better life while continuing to carry the same habits into every new situation. Then the new opportunity arrives, and the old habits quietly follow them through the door. New job, same insecurity. New relationship, same fear. More money, same poor choices. More freedom, same lack of discipline. Different house, same restless mind. The scenery changes, but the person remains the same. That is why inner preparation matters. You do not simply need a new circumstance. Sometimes you need a new capacity. You need broader shoulders for the responsibility, calmer hands for the pressure, wiser eyes for the choices, and a steadier heart for the uncertainty. And perhaps while you are wondering why the next chapter has not arrived, there are parts of you being strengthened quietly. Your patience, your judgment, your discipline, your ability to wait without losing hope, your ability to receive without becoming careless, your ability to succeed without forgetting who you are. The sixth key point is this: one day, you will realize that time was the most valuable thing you had, and unlike money, time cannot be saved for later, borrowed back, or purchased when you finally understand its worth. Think about how casually we treat an ordinary day. You wake up, check your phone, answer a few messages, deal with work, handle a family problem, eat something quickly, watch a little television, and tell yourself, I'll do the important things tomorrow. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody announced that a piece of your life had just disappeared. The clock simply moved. Another day went quietly into the past. That is what makes time so powerful and so easy to waste. Money usually leaves a visible mark. You spend $100 and you can see the lower balance. But spend 3 hours worrying, scrolling, arguing, postponing, or sitting in front of something you do not even enjoy, and there is no receipt. You cannot look at the end of the day and see the exact amount of life you spent. You simply feel a little more tired. Then another day comes, then another month, then a year, and one afternoon, perhaps while looking at an old photograph, you suddenly realize how quickly the years moved. The child in the picture is now an adult. Your parents look younger than you remember. Your own face looks different, and you think, where did all that time go? It did not disappear. You lived it. That is the uncomfortable truth. Every ordinary Tuesday became part of your life. Every postponed conversation became part of your life. Every hour you gave to something became part of your life. So when you say, I don't have time, sometimes what you really mean is, I have not decided what deserves my time. and that is a very different statement. There was a man who had spent years telling his wife, "When things calm down, we will travel together." He worked hard, she understood. There were bills, family duties, and endless responsibilities. Every year, they would talk about taking a trip. Every year, something came up. One year it was money, another year it was work. Then there was a family matter. Then there was a health concern. Next year, they would say, "Next year will be easier." One day, years later, they were sitting in their kitchen, and his wife said, almost casually, "Do you remember that trip we always talked about?" He smiled and said, "We should finally do it." But something had changed. They still had the desire, but the body did not have the same energy. The world had not become kinder to their schedule, and the children they once wanted to travel with were now busy with lives of their own. Nothing had been intentionally thrown away. That was the painful part. It had simply been postponed until the conditions were no longer the same. How many things in your own life have been placed in that waiting room? The phone call to an old friend, the dinner with your spouse, the visit to a parent, the hobby you wanted to enjoy, the place you wanted to see, the apology you needed to offer, the conversation you knew you should have. We assume the opportunity will remain available because it is available today. But people change, circumstances change, bodies change, relationships change, you change. There is wisdom in planning for tomorrow, but there is danger in sacrificing every meaningful moment to an imaginary future, where everything will finally be convenient. And this is where procrastination becomes more than a productivity problem, it becomes a life problem. When you postpone something meaningful, you are not simply moving a task from Monday to Tuesday. Sometimes you are exchanging one piece of your life for the possibility of doing it later. Think about your health. If you keep saying, "I will take better care of myself someday," your body is still moving through time while you are deciding. If you keep saying, "I will spend more time with my family when work becomes easier," your children are still growing while you are waiting. If you keep saying, "I will follow my dream when I have enough money," the years are still passing while you calculate the perfect amount. And there is nothing wrong with being responsible. There is nothing wrong with working hard for your family, but there comes a point when responsibility can become an excuse to never live. A man can spend his whole life building a beautiful house and forget to sit in it. He can work so hard to create a comfortable future that he never experiences the present he was working so hard to protect. Then one day, he has the house, the savings, the nice furniture, perhaps even the retirement account. But he looks around and realizes he cannot remember when he actually enjoyed any of it. That is a strange kind of success. It is like spending years saving candles for a special occasion, only to discover that you never lit them because you were waiting for the perfect evening. Time also teaches us something about people that we often understand too late. The people you love are not permanent fixtures in your life. They are moving through their own seasons. Your parents grow older. Your children become independent. Friends move to different cities. Brothers and sisters develop their own responsibilities. Your spouse changes, and you change with them. The person sitting beside you today may not always have the same health, energy, patience, or availability. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to wake you up. Sometimes we are so focused on fixing tomorrow that we fail to notice who is sitting beside us today. A father may spend years trying to give his children everything they need, but what they remember most may be the evenings when he actually sat down and listened. A mother may spend years keeping the house perfect, but her family may remember the one night she left the dishes in the sink and laughed with them until midnight. Haha, the dishes survived. Somehow, they did. The world did not collapse because the kitchen was not perfect, but that evening became a memory. And memories are strange things. They are the little containers in which time continues to live after the moment itself has gone. You cannot hold yesterday, but you can carry what yesterday meant. So ask yourself, what are you creating memories of? Constant hurry, constant work, constant worry, Or are there moments when the people you love feel that they truly have you? Not your phone, not your distracted face, not the version of you that is answering emails while saying, "Yes, yes, I'm listening." Haha, you, fully there. There is another reason time becomes more precious as we get older. You begin to understand that not every battle deserves your life. When you are younger, you may spend hours proving that you are right. Someone says something rude, and you replay it all night. Someone misunderstands you, and you feel compelled to explain yourself 10 different ways. Someone does not appreciate you, and you spend weeks trying to make them see your value. But eventually, if you are fortunate, you begin to ask a better question. Do I really want to spend part of my life on this? Because every argument has a cost. Every grudge has a cost. Every pointless disagreement takes a little piece of your attention. Imagine someone handing you a small box containing 1 hour of your remaining life and saying, "Here, spend this on an argument with someone who may forget it tomorrow." Would you take the box and hand it over? Probably not. Yet we do it every day without thinking. We spend hours being angry at traffic, strangers, relatives, co-workers, old memories, and people who are not even thinking about us. Haha, you go to bed angry about something that happened at noon, while the person who upset you is probably watching television and eating snacks. Haha, you are paying the emotional bill for a meal they already forgot ordering. At some point, wisdom means becoming selective. Not every insult needs a response. Not every disagreement needs a victory. Not every mistake needs a lifetime sentence. Your time is too valuable to hand it over so easily. There are people you need to forgive, not because what happened was acceptable, but because you do not want to keep paying for it with your peace. And perhaps this is why the phrase, "I'll do it later," deserves more attention than we give it. Later sounds harmless. Later sounds responsible. Later sounds like another opportunity. But sometimes later is simply today wearing a disguise. I'll call them later. I'll exercise later. I'll save later. I'll apologize later. I'll rest later. I'll enjoy life later. I'll start the dream later. And then later becomes a habit. A habit becomes a lifestyle. A lifestyle becomes a decade. You wake up one day and realize that you have been preparing to live instead of actually living. So perhaps today, while there is still a today, there is one thing you have been postponing that deserves your attention. Maybe it is small. Maybe it is a phone call. Maybe it is a walk. Maybe it is a conversation. Maybe it is opening the book you bought years ago. Maybe it is finally looking honestly at your finances. Maybe it is telling someone, "I love you." Maybe it is admitting, "I need help." Maybe it is giving yourself permission to enjoy something without feeling guilty. You do not need to fix your whole life in one afternoon. That is another form of pressure. You simply need to become more awake to where your time is going. Because the clock does not ask whether you are ready. It keeps moving while you are thinking, while you are planning, while you are worrying, while you are waiting, while you are saying one day. Maybe after everything we have talked about, you are beginning to see your life a little differently. Maybe the season you called slow was not empty at all. Maybe you were learning to build something that could last. Because the truth is, some of the most meaningful things in life do not arrive quickly. They develop quietly, almost unnoticed. A healthy body is built through ordinary choices. A strong relationship is built through ordinary moments. Financial stability is built through ordinary discipline. Confidence is built each time you keep a promise to yourself. Wisdom is built through years of living, losing, learning, and beginning again. And sometimes, you will look around and wonder why your progress seems so small. Do not let that moment deceive you. A tree does not look much different every morning, but beneath the surface, its roots are becoming stronger. You may be doing the same. Perhaps you are not where you wanted to be. That is okay. Perhaps you made mistakes. Most of us did. Perhaps you started later than you wish you had. Then start from where you are. You do not have to spend the rest of your life standing beside yesterday, wishing you had made different choices. Yesterday can teach you. It does not have to own you. And there is something deeply freeing about understanding that you are allowed to grow at your own pace. You do not need to compete with another person's timeline. You do not need to prove that your life is moving quickly. You do not need to panic because the results have not appeared yet. You need to keep becoming. Keep learning, keep adjusting, keep taking the next honest step, because patience is not giving up your dreams and calling it acceptance. Patience is having the courage to keep caring about something even when the result is still far away. It is waking up and doing the small thing again and again and again, not because you are certain of exactly when the reward will come, but because you understand that the person you become along the way is part of the reward. Maybe this is the season when you stop asking, "Why isn't my life moving faster?" and start asking, "What is this season teaching me?" Maybe you stop asking, "Why am I behind?" and start asking, "What can I build from here?" Maybe you stop saying, "I wasted so much time," and start saying, "I still have time to use wisely." Because you do, you still have today. And today may look ordinary. There may be dishes in the sink, bills on the table, a difficult conversation waiting, a body that needs care, a dream that feels distant, a relationship that needs attention, a decision you have been avoiding. But this is where life actually happens, not in some perfect future, here, in the ordinary moments you are living right now. So be patient with what is growing. Be honest about what needs to change. Be careful with your time. Do not confuse slow progress with failure. Do not confuse delay with denial. And do not confuse a quiet season with a meaningless one. Some things need time because they are becoming strong enough to remain. Your roots may need to grow before your branches can spread. Your character may need to deepen before your circumstances can expand. Your wisdom may need to mature before you can recognize the opportunity you have been praying for. And one day, you may look back at this particular chapter and understand why it could not happen overnight. You may realize that the waiting changed you, the mistakes taught you, the slow progress strengthened you, the disappointments clarified you, the ordinary days prepared you, and the things you once thought were delays may turn out to have been part of your becoming. So walk into the next part of your life without rushing yourself. There is no prize for arriving exhausted. There is no wisdom in destroying your peace simply because someone else appears to be moving faster. Take your time, but do not waste it. Be patient, but do not become passive. Dream, but also build. Hope, but also prepare. And when the results are slow, remember that some of the most important growth in your life may be happening where you cannot yet see it. One day, you may look back and realize that the life you were waiting for was being built quietly, one ordinary choice at a time. And perhaps the most beautiful thing you can do now is trust that process without abandoning your responsibility within it. You do not need to see the whole road. You only need enough light to take the next step. And then, when tomorrow comes, take another. Slowly, patiently, with your feet on the ground and your heart still open to what life can become.